Right, so day three at the Olympics has happened, and there were only two men's hockey games, so this won't be a super long video, but there are still things to discuss. So let's get right into it with Great Britain against Canada. I know Germany against Belgium was first, but I want to start with that one because that was a very important game for both teams, as was Belgium against Germany, but especially for Great Britain because if you look at Great Britain and their hopes of making the quarterfinals, they're very realistic hopes. But in order to get through the quarterfinals, there's two absolute must-win games against obviously South Africa and against Canada, which Great Britain managed to win both of them. But I wasn't very impressed with their game against South Africa. They didn't, and though I was impressed with South Africa against the Netherlands, Great Britain didn't scream favourite to me. They didn't stand out like I perhaps hoped or thought they would have. But today, or last night, rather against Canada, uh, there were many positives to be seen. Great Britain attacked from the very first minute. They pressured very high. They pressured Canada into making mistakes, into bad passes, into balls going out of play immediately. They forced Canadians into their own corner in the 25, after which they would put pressure, and Canada would just give the ball away way too often. And it's something, if you look at the goal from Liam Mansell, the very first one, it's something that Great Britain really worked on in training. You can see they weren't particularly pleased with a game against South Africa, I would imagine. And their goal against Canada really shows that they have been putting work in on the training ground. It's a very simple goal on the face of it, but if you don't train it, if you don't know exactly what to do, if you don't know exactly what to expect from every different player, if you don't know what Sam Ward might do, and if Sam Ward doesn't know where Liam Ansell is at or what he's good at, that goal doesn't happen. It's a very simple pass off the back line, very nice deflection, open goal, and it's a very simple finish, but the work is really made by Sam Ward's movement. And I was very critical, obviously, of the coaching staff and their decision to omit Alan Forsyth from the team. But I always thought Ansell and Ward should make the squad. They did make the squad. They combined very nicely for the goal, and obviously all three goals came from them. And there's not really much else to say about Great Britain. It's a bit of a shame to concede that goal and look at their clean sheet. That would have been good for their confidence. But a 3-1 victory is all they could ask for. Now they find themselves second in Group B, right behind Belgium. I don't expect them to get that first place or to finish in first place at the end of the group stages, because they still have to face Germany, they still have to face Belgium and the Netherlands. They are very tough games, and though they might obviously win one, they might even win two with a bit of luck. I don't think they're going to win all three of them, and I think Belgium is still just too strong for them. In the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, obviously that's very different. That's a different story because fatigue comes into play, and as we've seen with the Belgian team, they do have many injuries. They have problems in the squad now, not in terms of the personnel or in terms of their chemistry, but just the fatigue, and the injuries are starting to come into play. And you can see against Germany that at times defensively Belgium is troubled. And before we get into Belgium Germany, I still want to touch on Canada because Canada's hopes of the quarterfinals are dead pretty much. It's a shame to say so early on. It would have been nice for Canada to still be in with a shot, so that the game against Belgium, their game against the Netherlands and South Africa, would have been immensely important. However, if you look at Canada's goal, the way they scored it was pure instinct. The ball came back, they didn't overthink it, they didn't try to pass around it or walk into the net. That's something that Canada has done too often. They tried it against Germany too often. They got that goal against Germany because they just went for it. They went on instinct. They knew exactly what they were good at, and they didn't try to overcomplicate it. Same story here against Great Britain. So I'll be very interesting to see what they do against Belgium. But on to Belgium now. The game against Germany was very important in that Belgium had already played the Netherlands. The Netherlands and Germany still need to face each other. And if they really want to get the if they really want to decide who finishes first in their group, and if they really want the fate of that group to be in their own hands, They had to win that game, and they started off very nicely with 2 goals in the first 7 minutes by Cédric Charlier. Charlier had an off season this year, so it's good to see him going. Obviously, with injuries, Tom Bowen still didn't play, but apparently he is good to go in the next game against South Africa. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. But Germany, I'm not convinced yet. The European Championship campaign was not the best one. Obviously, there was that game against France, which was scary to say the least. Yes, they did reach the final. Yes, they had an okay game against the Netherlands in the first one, and they still played relatively well against the Netherlands in the final, but they never really looked like a dominant team, like the dominant team that they should be. Yes, they did look dominant against Canada, but then again, it's Canada who doesn't really have world-class players, and it's not really the barometer that you want to that you set for yourself. The barometer is Belgium. The barometer is the Netherlands. Is Australia when you face them, and it didn't look good from Germany. Now, obviously, there were some problems with the officiating. I thought the way the officials handed out yellow cards and green cards was way too easily. Yes, there was an instance where there might have been a yellow card, deservedly so, but I think the game was overshadowed not only by the amount of cards, but just officiating in general. The TMO, the video referring, hasn't been good at the Olympics, and it really does a great disservice to hockey. Now, obviously, it's not the officials' fault, it's the fault of the technology and not having the correct footage and not having footage of a high enough definition. And that's something that they obviously need to address, because now is the time to really shine at the Olympics when more people are watching, more casuals are watching. And it's a shame, but I might make a video on that if that doesn't resolve itself in the next few days. But Germany, Belgium, yeah. Belgium looks to be on par to finish first in Group B, which was where everyone, or most people at least, predicted them to be. Germany really didn't look good. They couldn't create much. Yes, they had a few good chances. I think of a Roux shot that was saved by Van Asch. Was a very good shot and an even better save. But they need to get out of that cocoon. They really need to burst through and make kind of a statement game against the Netherlands, most likely, that they need to score 3, 4, 5 to really get that confidence going, to really get those players going. Now, this is a very interesting result, though, because obviously we probably know who's going to finish first in that group, but places 2, 3, and 4 are very wide open. Great Britain still needs to play Germany and the Netherlands. The Netherlands and Germany still need to play each other. And you never know, South Africa and Canada still might cause some trouble for any of those teams. But that's obviously something for later. I'm not going to make rash predictions based off of 2 games. Still, it's very early on to say that. The third game will be a good barometer to see how teams have played. If one of the bad games was just a day off, if one of the good games was just a fluke for any team, really, not only for Germany or for teams in Group B, but also in Group A. And that will be very interesting to see. So there's games during the night again. There's Argentina against Australia, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, India, Spain, Japan, New Zealand. Those are very interesting games, good games. So I'll keep an eye on those, obviously, throughout the night. But yeah, that concludes this video. There's still a lot more that I want to talk about, but I'll keep that for the recap of the group stages. I'll keep that for a separate video where I might address the video umpiring problems as well. But as I said, this is it for this video. I thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Sorry, I have lost the ability to speak today. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Please consider liking the video, and we'll talk to you very soon.